Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cash Up, a weekly show where we converse with amazing folks in digital forensics. And today I'm so excited to be joined by Nicole Odom. Nicole is currently a forensic scientist for digital and multimedia evidence at the Virginia Department of Forensic Science. Prior to her work at the Virginia Department of Science, Nicole held a variety of research positions, including as a graduate assistant in digital forensics at Marshall University, a research specialist at Missouri Orthopedic Institute, and as a research assistant at the University of Missouri. Nicole earned a Master of Science in Forensic Science and a graduate certificate in digital forensics from Marshall University, as well as her Bachelor of Science in Chemistry with a minor in Biological Sciences from the University of Missouri-Columbia. Nicole's found a way to give back to her communities both locally and globally in a variety of ways, including as a memory care unit volunteer at the Bluffs, as a volunteer at the University of Missouri's School of Music, and as a teaching volunteer as part of the Music in Our Schools program at a local middle school. Additionally, she gives back globally as a mission volunteer in the Dominican Republic, helping in a variety of ways from work with children to a local hospital in Rio San Juan. Nicole has conducted in-depth forensic research of wearable devices and presented on her analysis of smartwatches at a variety of conferences, including Techno-Security Myrtle Beach, the American Academy of Forensic Sciences, or AAFS, and the Open Source Digital Forensics Conference, OSDFCon, as well as published her research in the Journal of Forensic Sciences. Nicole's work has been recognized with multiple awards, including the Research Experience for Undergraduate RAU Fellowship, the American Academy of Forensic Sciences Outstanding Research Award for her work Go Go Gadget Smartwatch, an investigation of wearable devices and their forensic value. She was nominated for 2020 Forensic Forecast Award for DFIR Groundbreaking Research for Forensic Inspection of Sensitive User Data and Artifacts from Smartwatch Wearable Devices, and the winner of the Forensic Forecast DFIR Newcomer of the Year for 2020. I was absolutely blown away when I first met Nicole at the American Academy of Forensic Sciences by both her work she was presenting on and when I had the chance to speak to her afterwards. And it's an absolute pleasure to introduce you all to her. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, so glad to have you. I've really enjoyed every time I've gotten to sit down and chat with you, and so I'm really excited to get to do so today. You've had a really interesting way into digital forensics. Right now, you work in a lab doing analysis, but a lot of your route here came from research, and your background in school is in forensic sciences, but you have a multitude of other things there. Would you mind sharing a bit about how you got here?
Sure. So as you said, I didn't start out in digital forensics at all. In fact, I was going to the University of Missouri-Columbia and studying chemistry by my senior year. I had changed a lot up through university. I started out in vet med, and then I moved to education, and then I decided, no, chemistry is really fun. So I was kind of all over the place until I found chemistry. But whenever it came to my senior year and I was going to graduate, I was looking at jobs and nothing really seemed that interesting to me. And I was talking to my friend about it, and he was like, well, you love science. Have you ever considered forensic science? And he was like, I think you'd be really good at it. You'd enjoy it. And I thought about it. I've always enjoyed crime shows. Everybody says that, but it's a guilty pleasure. And so I looked into it a little bit, and I thought about it, and I was like, I think he's right. Like, I'd like to explore that. So I took a year off and worked in just a research job that didn't even have anything to do with chemistry, just looking at like x-rays and things like that, and applied for graduate school for forensics. And I ended up going to Marshall University because they offered this program that allowed you to look at or have more than one emphasis. So I actually ended up studying forensic science with forensic chemistry, crime scene investigation, and digital forensics. And at the time, I wasn't even sure digital forensics is where I wanted to go. I was actually looking at forensic chemistry for a while there. But I applied for graduate assistantships in all of those and got the digital forensics one. And the graduate assistantship was amazing. It really changed my outlook and definitely made me decide that I wanted to go into digital forensics. It was just I learn something new every day,
Yes.
which is something that's great about digital forensics. I mean, you can truly learn something new every single day. And I had always kind of had an affinity for computers and had no idea that I did. But as I was working through different assignments that were given to me by my advisor, I realized that I really enjoyed working with computers, and all of the classes to do with digital forensics, I just always wanted to learn more. So I decided to roll with it and go with digital forensics, and I honestly have loved every bit of it. Did my research project there in digital forensics, and have just really enjoyed everything that I've done. So I decided to not follow chemistry and go into the technical side of things, I guess, with computers.
I love that because you got to spend all this time doing research and really honing those skills before you dug into the digital aspects of forensics. How do you feel that that research background, the time that you spent working on everything from x-rays and orthopedic research, framed and shaped the way you approach digital forensics?
I feel like having a strong background research has really helped me. It's everything about the scientific method, I think, is directly applicable to digital forensics. So you're able to take a question or a purpose and having your hypothesis and testing that. I mean, it's directly applicable to the digital forensic process where you approach a case and you have a question that the agency wants you to answer, and then you have to do your research in order to find answers to that question. So whether that's doing initial background research and being able to know the different locations and how to properly search for things on the internet, or how to reach out to your peers and talk with them and get their experiences, and then work that into your process, and then learning how to break down all the steps, so like acquiring and analyzing. I think just having a good background on how to approach those questions and how to perform that research in a good way has really helped me with that.
I think that's really interesting because I think a lot of people, when you start talking to them about doing research, what they don't know is how to start. And that's right. Because they haven't been exposed to a methodology, right? So like when I teach at the university, I teach a very specific methodology for mobile forensic research: discover, test, find, parse, script. And when you're talking about how knowledge of the methodology you've learned to conduct other analyses really can carry through. And I think that's brilliant. Before the show, we were talking about how one of the most important skills is knowing how to Google.
Right. I think it's an amazing skill to have. It's so simple, but if you can Google properly, I mean, you can find nearly anything that you'll need. So.
And that's it, because so many people don't realize that they've never Googled the way that a researcher Googles, or use the same sources. I'm sure that you jump on Google Scholar to...
yeah, I jump on. I mean, there's so many different... you start on Google and then you find a different avenue. You go to Google Scholar, you find those sources, you find... it's a great way to find different pages that have resources of people that are actually working with the device that don't have anything to do with digital forensics, but you have access to how that device works and what it looks like inside immediately.
That's so key, because both you and I do a lot of IoT research, and the amount of times that I'm on teardowns or on GSM forums and looking at, so I'm not even looking at digital forensics articles, because people might know a lot of their digital forensics sources that they use this week in forensics about DFIR, D for DFA, whatever. When you're doing brand new research into things that haven't been done, a lot of the time we're using resources that are more in the hacker community, or that are more in the tear down community. I watch more iFixit videos than probably most people.
Yes, so many repair videos, all these repair stuff. Like, okay, yeah, I'll do it.
And going to like S manuals and pulling down the repair manuals, because the repair manuals will sometimes be public, even if the technical manuals aren't, and you still get a better understanding about what this trace does or what this port does from the repair manuals. It's just awesome what you can figure out from that.
Absolutely. I mean, if you know how to search, understanding how a device works, like especially with IT, that is key in understanding how to even access the data on it and make sure that you're not messing anything up because you want to be forensically sound.
Right.
So like knowing how the device works, I mean, if you can Google properly, you can figure out how it functions and anything you need to know about it before you even start messing with it.
And I know you've done this because I've spoken to you about it, but I know sometimes you go to the developers who are developing apps or additions for the device. You go to their resources.
Mm-hmm. And you can take advantage of their tools that were never meant to have that function, for you, and then make it work for you in a way that's forensically sound, I guess. Yeah.
And it gives you that heads up, right? Because if you find a Python script that is for, accessing a device for some development purpose, and you can alter that script or take the piece of code that you need from it so that you're not imposing other non-forensically sound processes or touching more of the device, it is such a head start, and things that you wouldn't know otherwise, things that could take you years to test and figure out are right there. And I know you were doing some wearable technology presentation at OSDFCon the second time I met you. Yeah. And you asked this question. I'm like, how did you figure out that port? Because it was a device that I had messed with, but I had no idea that this one port was an access. And I'm like, how did you find that? And I was like, man, this girl's Google foo is good. Like,
yeah. I mean, just doing a search on it, I think it was on the developer's website. They just happened to have a picture of their port settings. And I was like, okay, well, there it is. And I tried it and it worked. So even that, just like looking in the pictures on websites, they might leave something behind, plain text passwords, things like that. I mean, it's all right there.
I will tell you, plain text passwords for an IoT, and you've probably found this too, a lot of times, even if you set your own password, the default passwords still work. So if you can find those repair manuals, and they do it for repair, if you can find those repair manuals that have a screenshot of the default password being entered into a terminal app, it's like, yes, and then you just send that via command. You got it, jackpot. Like it's awesome. Maybe that'll change with the new legislation for IoT devices for government use, but for now. So what are you working on right now?
Oh gosh, most of the research I do right now is for my casework. So like if I'm encountering a gaming console, then I need to figure out how that works, things like that. But I was recently able to do a collaboration with someone over in VTO Labs for a workshop that I'll be co-presenting with the SWIGD group for the American Academy of Forensic Science.
That's fantastic. I'm gonna be there, so I'm really excited. So we'll be there virtually, right? So I'm also a member of the American. I'm an associate member of the American Academy of Forensic Sciences. There are levels and years, etc. And that is where we first met in 2018 or 2019. 2018.
I think it's 2018.
2018. Yes, we've known each other a couple years now. It was January. So in the AAFS, if you're interested in going, it's still open for registration. It is later this month. And in the digital and multimedia section, there is a whole workshop long format from SWIGDE, the Software Working Group of Digital Evidence. If you're not familiar with them, check out the SWIGDE's page because they write all kinds of great SOP starters.
They do. They have a lot of great like best practices and just kind of technical notes on some things. So it's definitely, they have a lot of good papers there.
You know what I love doing with them? They always put out all of their procedures for public comment for a period of 30 days. And I send in comments. Like I encourage everyone to do it because it's important to have multiple inputs into those things. And you probably have a best practice from your lab, whoever you are, to share. So I love that. So you're building this workshop. Tell us a little bit about this workshop. And VTO is amazing. So
VTO is great. They do so many cool things there. And we're just one talk of the many in the workshop. But what we focused on was IoT teardown. So kind of looking at Internet of Things devices, since we're both really interested in that. And then looking at not only how to research them, but how to access them, so connect with them, and then acquire data from those devices. If in the instance that you get a new device that hasn't had a teardown made for it yet, or there's not much research out there, knowing how to reach out to people and kind of learn more about that device and figure out how to work with it and interact with it.
I have something I'm about to do a teardown on this week.
Excellent.
I'm excited. Everybody gets excited when they have a new device that they're about to tear down. So I love it. And something I couldn't find on the internet. So I love that you're doing an explanation of how to do a teardown, because that methodology is not really out there. So I think that's going to be great for you to share. I love it. I love it.
Well, what was excellent about it was that the device that we focused on for our example, I hadn't worked with it before. So awesome. I was working with Matt Dominic, and he was kind of, every now and then when I'd hit a wall, he'd give me a hint, but he was kind of letting me figure it out myself. So that was really cool.
I love that.
It's getting to learn from other people who have that experience, getting to work together. And I'm always happy to learn and develop those skills. So like, that was really cool. Was getting to play with a device I've never worked with before. Nothing
better than collaboration. Nicole, absolutely. We're going to have to collaborate on something.
I would love that.
Let's make it happen. Well, after January, after you're done with the SWIG DE, let's come up with a project to collaborate on. It'll be good fun. So, where do you find your inspiration?
Oh gosh, I really love what I do. Honestly, I think that there's something so unique about the digital forensics community. I've seen the chemistry community. I've seen, at AFS, they have all the different types of
they groups. Do.
And you could see all of them, but I think there's something really special about the digital forensics community because there's so much opportunity to collaborate with people. There's so many opportunities to reach out and share with people that might be working on the same thing that you're working on. And you can share your experiences and then directly apply that to what you're working on. So I think that honestly, just the ability to learn and collaborate and do something different every single day is a great source of inspiration, because there's never something that you can't, I don't know, there's always somewhere further to go with that. There's always a new device, there's always a new version, there's always a new release. And I think that's a great source of, inspiration and getting to work, and it kind of keeps me going, is that it's never ending. There was always something new to learn.
I love that. There are people who want to learn something and then apply it and just be able to master it. What I love about digital forensics is we can never, ever master even a fragment of it.
That's right.
There's so much, and there's so much to share and so much to learn. And one of the things I love about you, Nicole, is you are newer to the field, but you put yourself out there. You put your research out there. You took your skills that you learned in your previous field, and I think this is important for any career movers, and you applied them to digital forensics. And it really just so much admire the fact that you were able to take those skills, apply them, put yourself out there. A lot of people don't do that. And in terms of putting yourself out there, I mean, we met at AAFS. We just talked about SWGDE. So, and I'll explain the acronyms. American Academy of Forensic Sciences, which is a professional organization. It doesn't, as Nicole said, doesn't just cover digital forensics. What's cool about AAFS is back when I went to real life AAFS conferences, I'd be sitting there at the hotel breakfast and somebody would sit down next to me, and they were, a medical examiner, and they were talking to me about what they were giving a talk on in the trials and tribulations of identifying bullet wounds in brains. And I'm just like, wow. And then totally blown away. And then they asked me about my research and what I was presenting on. And so I talked about that. And I had done an IoT talk back in 2018. And they were like, wow, but it's just because it's all stuff we don't know about each other. And so it's kind of cool to collaborate in that way at that organization, but then also it's published work. And then we talked about SWGDE, but you're also a member of HTCIA, High Tech Crime Investigation Association. You're a member of IASIS, right? So you have all of these organizational groups that you joined even as a student in professional organizations and continuing on through your career. How has that helped you? Have you found value in joining professional organizations? And if so, what's that value?
Oh, absolutely. I think that joining professional organizations is is key in not only furthering your, your career, but furthering yourself as a person and as an examiner, because you're making those connections, which are, unrivaled. Being able to communicate and build a network in digital forensics, because the network is what's so amazing about this community, being able to reach out to people. And if you don't have those connections, you don't join those organizations or go to those conferences or get involved in research in those groups, then you're not utilizing that to the best of your capacity. Because I think, me personally, I joined a lot of stuff as a student, as much as I could. And as a student, I looked at, job applications and things like that to see what they had listed as skills, just to see what I needed to look for and how to build my my resume, not only my resume, but my skills as an examiner. So joining those groups and making those connections with the people that I have, I've opened a lot of doors for myself and a lot of opportunities to, again, collaborate with people. This collaboration with VTO Labs never would have happened had I not met some people and made some connections to reach out to them and get involved with that. Being a student member of AFS, I was able to meet so many leading people in the field. And just the fact that, I can reach out to them and ask them questions. And through that membership as well, I can give back to that community, which is really great. So it's a give and a take.
I love it.
But being able to have access to that, if I hadn't joined those groups, then I wouldn't have access to those opportunities. So.
And, I'll just put out there, like, the IASIS mailing list is fantastic just for the conversations that happen there. HTCIA is really cool because there's all the different chapters. I think each chapter, so I'm a chapter vice president for New York Metro. And we have to do 4 training events a year for our chapters. And now with everything being virtual, if you're a member, you pretty much get access to all the other chapters as well. So there's always all of these learning opportunities to skill up and learn about something else from experts in their part of our field, their niche. So it's just fantastic.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the key things when you try to get involved in this field. Definitely joining groups and becoming active in those groups, not just hanging out in that group, but like speaking with the people. Sure, it's intimidating to walk up to someone you don't know and try to speak with them and collaborate with them at these conferences, but it's necessary because having those open communication lines really can help you in your work, can help you learn more, give you more opportunities for research, which I love. So it's necessary.
And I love that because it's like, it's not just a line on my resume that I'm a member. I have to be active in that organization. You have to participate. You have to give back. You have to share your knowledge. There are these little community groups that I love that to join, sometimes these little hacker collectives, you have to give a talk on your first day because you have to share in order to be part of it. Just 5 minutes, right? Like a little lightning talk. And I love that concept because it shows that you have, it shows everybody in the group who you are, so they have something to talk to you about, but it also forces you out of your comfort zone.
Yes, absolutely.
And so I really love that concept. And I love how you are active in all of these organizations and that you did it as a student. I just think excellent. So thank you for that. So we talked a lot about your research and your career, and obviously you work in the lab every single day. What do you do outside of DFIR?
When I come home, I like to do yoga. I have really gotten into that recently. I think it's a great way to stay fit because it's something that's not too hard on your body, but it's a lot of fun. And then I also really enjoy cooking. I wouldn't say I'm the best cook, but I do buy a lot of recipe books, make a lot of different types of food. And then I also like to experiment with like sauces and stuff for different meals that I've made. So I really enjoy cooking.
I've got to tell you all that before we went live, Nicole and I were going through everything we'd made in the last week. We both like to cook as a way to escape a lot of things. I feel like you can put so much love and energy into food. And you were talking about how you just made dumplings from scratch.
Yeah. I just got a bamboo steamer. So that was fun for Christmas. So I made some gyoza from hand, from dough all the way to the end, and it was amazing. So good. So I love trying new things, and they actually turned out really well.
Yeah, I love playing and experimenting in the kitchen. Like it's so much fun. I made multiple soups this weekend. I made multiple breads this weekend. I love taking like my Sunday and just prepping food for the week. So I totally get it because it gives you this other place. We were talking about the music, the eclectic music we listen to as we talk, and how we pick different types of music for different things. I was talking about Offspring for kneading dough.
Yeah. Great band, really hardcore, just doing it. Yeah, absolutely.
I think my favorite thing in the kitchen is when bread's risen and you get to punch the dough the first time. Like that is just like this moment like of just pure cooking bliss. Punch the dough and it goes down. So I love also that you do yoga, and I think that's such a great practice because it gives you that mental space to separate. Because sometimes the work we deal with in the lab, it's not all just research, right? It's real cases, and some of that can be emotionally intense. And I love that yoga gives you that and that you can do it anywhere.
Yes. I do it up in my guest bedroom. So I have a little app, and you can choose what you want to do for the workout, and it'll create a routine for you, and you can do it there. But I mean, you can, once you learn the different positions and stuff, you can make your own and just kind of go with the flow. So pretty great.
A perfect expression, go with the flow. I don't know if you intended a pun, but it was
absolutely.
Brilliant. It was punny. I love it. Yeah. I love it. Nothing like a good pun. And you talked about making your own sauces. What's your favorite sauce? You got a recipe for us?
Oh, gosh, I love spicy food. I don't have a specific recipe because I actually just throw things together in a pan. So I made tikka masala sauce from scratch. I kind of looked up kind of the ingredients that go in it, and had a lot of stuff in my spice rack. So I started throwing stuff into a pan and then adding like milk and stuff like that, and it turned out really well. So.
You know what? One of my favorite moments is cooking. I love when you first start putting your spices in the pan and you're doing like caramelizing some onions and some garlic, and just you get all those fragrances together.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like even before you're making real food, just that fragrant moment when it all starts coming together off the pan, just incredible. Like,
yep.
I love that. That's such a great moment. I love that you're into sauces. I made a chili mayo with horseradish, and yes, I mixed two different spicy things in there this weekend to put into a tortilla soup, and just awesome. Kevin says the best recipes are just throwing random things together. Absolutely. You know what it is, Kevin? In forensics, we have to follow such a specific process, and we need to be so specific, and we need to document everything. And in the kitchen, I throw that all to the wind.
Absolutely. I mean, that's absolutely how you get the best things.
Right? It's the opposite of science. Well, although there are some purists who would say you absolutely should not do that, who are into gastronomy and some cooking purists, but that's okay.
Well, again, I'm not the greatest cook, so if it turns out tasting good, then that's all.
Then you won, right?
Yeah.
But it's the process. It's not always about the eating. Like to me, that's not the best part. To me, it's like the process and the creativity and the pulling things together and the smells. And it's not about the mess. Are you a messy cook?
I am so messy.
I'm the messiest cook.
I'm just messy in general. So yes.
Flour on the floor, sauces everywhere. I'm really good at cleaning up afterwards. And that's actually also kind of cathartic, but I make the world's largest mess when I cook.
Yes.
And I love it. Like it's part of the process, right? Like getting flour everywhere. If you don't get flour everywhere, you totally messed up.
Yeah.
They say never trust a skinny cook. I'm like, never trust a clean cook.
Yeah, that's definitely more accurate.
So getting back a little bit to digital forensics, you've had such an interesting way of getting in. How do you feel that internships framed or gave you opportunities?
Oh gosh. In my instance, my internship was everything. So the way Marshall works is that they require you to do a research project and then you try to go forward with that work and get published. But that's not a requirement. But since it was there, I went for it and, did the research, reached out to an organization that I was interested in personally. So I took my internship as an opportunity to kind of have it as a long job interview, and really learning those skills hands on in a place that I respected. So I I did my time and I researched places that I wanted to look at, and I actually ended up doing my internship at the Virginia Department of Forensic Science, which
Hmm.
I am employed at. So yeah, I think that was a really great decision on my part. And personally, for me, my internship was the reason I think that I got my job, because I was able to go there, learn a lot from them, and get to try different experiences that was totally unrelated to my research. They said that I was crazy with chip off because they had the mill there and everything. So they said that I could do it. So I did it a lot, um, because they said I could. And they used to joke around like I took the mill over and used all their test devices, but I learned so much there.
So I know you collaborated with VTO.
Mhm.
You have to go to their lab in Denver.
I want to. I
I've
do.
had the pleasure of being there for a Chromebook day, but if you want to talk about a place that has state of the art, everything from water removal to laser removal to chip off milling, so cold, hot, non-destructive, like water is incredible. What you can do with water is incredible. Um, you need to visit their lab in Denver. Absolutely state of the art, and Steve Watson is incredible. I actually need to have him on the show. I need to reach out to Steve. Hi, Steve. Steve, if you're listening, come be on the show. Um, I have a great relationship with Steve, so that's no problem. I'll reach out to him myself. I don't need disclaim it, but I love that you're doing that. I love that you got to work with Josh Bernte at Marshall. What a great person to work with and co-author papers with. I love that you've put out papers. I love that you collaborate. I love that you took advantage and found a smart internship and saw it as a way to go. What would be your advice to people who are, you did it, right? Like you said, I'm going to get into DFIR once you got exposed to the program while you were doing other forensic sciences, and you did it. And you put yourself all out there in your first year. It's the reason, again, you got Newcomer of the Year in the Forensic Forecast. Well deserved, amazing stuff you contributed starting in the field. What is your advice to someone who wants to start?
Well, I think we already touched on it big time. Is getting involved. Um, I think that's the greatest thing that I did, was finding those groups that have a lot of people in them that have a lot of experience in what you want to do. So not joining everything, not trying to do everything, but looking at the groups that would help you and that you could learn from. So I mean, I reached out and as a student tried to get involved in things and try to figure out where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. And then I went forward with those. And whenever I became a member, I tried to be active. So not only getting involved, but actively participating and giving back to that. So going to those conferences and doing presentations if you can, speaking with individuals during the off time and building those communications,
Yes.
getting involved with those groups that have listservs and different things like that, and being able to access that resource. Getting involved is absolutely one of the best things to do when you're first starting out. If I had not gotten involved, I don't think I would be here.
And there's so many opportunities. A lot of times these organizations are looking for people to help with things. So I love what you did, because sometimes people, when they're newer to the field, they're intimidated. It'll be like there will be, and I'll say something maybe innocuous, but maybe an HTCIA chapter has an opening for secretary, and you're like, I've only been here 6 months. I mean, as long as you're a real member, not a student member.
Yeah.
I've only been here 6 months as a regular member. I've attended as a student member. It's not for me. Why isn't it for you? It's a great way for you to connect with other people. It's a great way for you to maybe connect with the headquarters of the organization. It's a great way for you to connect with the other chapter officers who might be people who are more seasoned. Like, find ways to connect. And if you're in those organizations, it's a great opportunity to connect with others. And so I love that you've taken it. And there's so many different ways. If you're a writer, start participating in the listservs that you're part of and is part of that organization. If you're someone who has information to share it as a presentation at that organization. And then you get those communications and conversations. If you just observe and just sit back, you're not getting everything there is. You get more by giving.
Yeah, right? It's a little extra work for a lot of added benefit. So, I mean,
yes.
There have been times where I've signed up for things and I'm like, oh man, that's a problem for future me, because like I signed up for something and I'm super nervous about it. And I'm like, well, it's 3 months away, so I don't have to worry about it right now. I'll just do the work. And then when I get there, I can worry about it. And I tried to do that a lot. So I try to say like yes to as many things as I feel are important, and try to push myself. And then once I get there, I can be intimidated. But until that time, just a little extra work, and it really will pay off.
So I love that. You said say yes to the things that are important. And I think that's really, really critical. And I'm so glad that you have that skill at this time in your career, because it is hard to figure out which opportunities are the right opportunities. And there is a difference between when you're building a resume and once you've been in the field for a while, or what your time limitations are. But the key is saying yes to the right things, seeking out the right things, because not everything is always just going to come to you. But I think that's it. Say yes to the right things. Brilliant.
Well, it's worked for me, I guess. So,
and it's a great example. Like, you are the epitome of the way that students can really break into the field. While you're in school, get the internships, join the organizations, do the research, and try to publish and present on the work. And you presented on the work, TechNow, OSDFCon, AAFS. These are great places. And presenting on your work, if you're not sharing and you're attending, you might not be building connections. People will remember you if you speak on something and you share something.
That's absolutely true. Just from speaking at those places, I've had people reach out with questions. They knew that I worked on smartwatches, so they have a smartwatch in their case and they're reaching out. And, I provide, if I can help, I help. And if I can't help, then I help try to find resources that can help them. So, it's a great way you put yourself out there, and then people know that you're working on that, and then you can give back a little bit.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for all your great advice, for all you continue to give back to the community. I really look forward to chatting about whatever you and I are going to collaborate on.
Yeah, me too.
We're going to do something stupendous. So watch out, world. Nicole and I are going to work on something. So just thank you so much for being our guest today and for sharing so much and giving back to the community. And I just know you're going to have an amazing career. And I can't wait to see what you do next.
I can't wait to learn. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for your kind words. I really appreciate it. So.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Next week, we're going to have on Yogesh Khatri, an amazing forensics examiner, Mac APT instructor at Swift Forensics blog and GitHub. Just check it out. It's going to be great. Our full schedule is up on magnaforensics.com/cashup, including Phil Moore, Jace Asportas, Daryl Fife, Eric Katz, Chad Tilbury. And I'll tell you a little sneak peek now about some other guests I just recently confirmed that are not yet on the site. Katie Nichols, Ali Hadi, Brian Hussey, Matt Mitchell. So just great stuff coming up. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great week.